So I just learned something crazy, and now I have to share it with literally every single person I know. Buckle in. So I'm in this literature class, and I have to choose a short story and then write an essay about it. You know, the normal academic bullshit that we all put up with. Now, me being a enjoyer of Japanese culture, if you will, decided to pick patriotism for no obvious reason. Now, while I'm going through telling you about a story, about me reading a story, and then discovering the author's story, I want you to keep in mind one thing. Foreshadowing. Foreshadowing. Foreshadowing! You know, that literary device that authors use to hint at something in the future. Oh, that had no flow whatsoever. What the fuck? So the story is set in 1936 Japan, and do I even really need to explain this? Guys, we know what it was like back then. We played Call of Duty. You know, it's the Meiji Restoration period. The Japanese are trying to modernize, so they got things like guns, trains, airplanes. All of this contrasted with their sense of honor. Like, they're still following Bushido, which is the code of ethics for the samurai. They still view the emperor as an actual divine being. So the story starts off with the narrator telling us that the two main characters, Lieutenant Shinji Takayama and his beautiful wife, Reiko, commit suicide. Foreshadowing. But this young couple, they didn't just commit suicide. I think everybody can guess what they did. Japan, soldier, Bushido, samurai, come on. He committed seppuku. Now, if you're not familiar with what seppuku is, the story goes into very gruesome detail of everything it entails. It entails entrails. Now, before the story goes any further, the author goes, hold up, wait a minute. Let's flash back and see how we got to this point. So Reiko and the lieutenant, they get married just a little bit before this, and right when they do, the lieutenant sets his wife down and is like, yo, it's 1936 in Imperial Japan. Most likely gonna die soon. And Reiko, she's pretty down with it, actually. But even outside of all the soldierly stuff, these two really like each other. Like, really, really like each other. Here, let me read one of my favorite quotes from the book in the voice of Carl Wieser.
As both were possessed of young, vigorous bodies, their relationship was passionate. Nor was this merely a matter of the night.
Like, these guys were going at it constantly. And the author really drives home this point with his use of description. Like, some of these passages, Sergei Mas might want to be looking out. You got a contender.
Reiko's body was white and pure, and her swelling breasts conveyed a firm and chaste refusal. But upon consent, those breasts were lavish with their intimate, welcoming warmth. I don't think it's as warm as a llama, though.
Even though this couple was just going at it like rabbits, it was all moral, nothing unchaste. In fact, according to Education's Rescript's injunction, wow, that is a mouthful, husband and wife should be harmonious. Harmonious? More like horny-nomious. Okay, exposition. It's done. It's over. It's in the rear view mirror. Let's move on with the story. The lieutenant comes home from his shift. It's dark. It's muddy. He hasn't shaved in 2 days. He's depressed. He sits down at the dinner table. The dinner mat. The ceremonial place of eating. He tells his wife that his friends tried to incite a rebellion, and that tomorrow, upon imperial decree, he'll have to execute them. His honor doesn't allow him to disobey his orders, but his honor also doesn't let him betray his friends. With no choice before him, the only thing he can do is to cut his stomach. And Reiko replies, bet. Can I do it with you? Now, this next bit is actually unironically interesting. So in samurai culture, whenever you commit seppuku, you need to have a witness. So the soldier's like, sure, you can follow me to the afterlife, but you have to be my witness for my suicide first. To this, Reiko is like so happy. She's so happy to watch her husband die. But there's context behind it. There's always context, guys. So usually in situations like this, the husband kills the wife first, and that's because the husband doesn't trust the wife to actually follow through on the suicide pact. So by the lieutenant being like, yeah, you just gotta be my witness, Reiko's like, oh my god, my husband trusts me. My husband trusts me to take my own life. Now the story from here keeps on being pretty interesting. The lieutenant goes and makes himself look pretty, and as he's shaving, he finds that he's filled with pleasurable anticipation. He's feeling pretty good about his choice of dying. Not only that, he's feeling pretty horny for his wife. And he has a moment of reflection where he's like, wait a minute, is this okay? Like, is there anything like impure about what I'm doing here? And as he's reflecting, he realizes that this sense of duty, him being a soldier, fulfilling the emperor's will, and being a good husband, finding harmony with his wife, they're all the same thing. It's all duty, it's all honor. So yes, committing seppuku and plowing your wife are actually two sides of the same coin. So yeah, these guys, they go at it all night. Ever heard of something called seppuku and chill? In fact, it was so good, they said it was the best they'd ever had, and would be the best they would ever have throughout their entire lives. You can imagine calling up like couples therapy and you're like, listen, we need some way to reignite the bedchamber. And the therapist is like, have you thought about suicide pacts? So you might be thinking in this point in the short story, we're towards the end. There's not a whole lot left to do besides doing the act. No, we're like halfway through. We got pages, and you know exactly what they're going to be filled with. Who all here is excited to learn about seppuku? Come on. I know you are. Now, there's a few motions that go into seppuku. First off is stabbing yourself in the stomach. Second off is pulling the blade across your abdomen to ensure your own death. Your entrails are spilling out. You've eviscerated yourself. You start coughing up blood. And throughout this entire description of this, the thing that stood out most to me was this quote right here. It struck him as incredible that amidst this terrible agony, things which could be seen could still be seen, and existing things existed still. I never really thought about how lucid one would essentially have to be in this case to go through with such a painful act of suicide. Jesus. And remember, Reiko's watching all this. She's the witness for the seppuku. As she's seeing her husband in so much pain and her unable to help him or do really anything besides watch, she feels this barrier forming between her and her husband. Because while she is experiencing grief of actively watching her husband die, she's not feeling the pain that he's going through. Yet despite the sudden separation and watching entrails exploding out of somebody's stomach and them vomiting blood profusely, she still describes it as, it would be difficult to imagine a more heroic sight than that of the lieutenant at this moment. So with his stomach cut, he can now end his life with honor. And he does so by stabbing himself in the neck. This is crazy. Like, the people actually did this. All that's left is for Reiko to follow suit. But first, she has some chores she has to do. She goes and cracks open the door a little bit, so that her neighbors can find them before they start decaying. She goes and touches up her makeup, and something I didn't know was apparently samurai committing seppuku would also put on makeup so they can look really pretty in death. She uses some cord and a blanket to bind her legs in a way so that after, she commits suicide, she'll remain in a dignified pose. And grabbing a dagger that was a gift from her mother, she stabs herself in the neck. And that is the end of the story. Pretty fucking gruesome, Jesus Christ! Can we just agree, guys? Stabbing oneself in the neck has to be the worst way possible to commit suicide. Why can't it be honorable to OD on opium? God, I think that's pretty honorable. I think it's pretty clear that the author's trying to draw this connection between one's duty to their wife and one's duty to their country in this story, and especially with his use of description. He spends a lot of time on the sex. And a lot of time on the seppuku, given, very vivid details of it all. Now, while the author definitely doesn't pull his punches when it comes to describing seppuku, throughout the entire story, I can't help but feel like the author was idolizing it. He wrote with a lot of admiration. And that could be because he's writing from the lens of the, characters involved in the story. But I definitely felt like there was an attitude of reverence concerning it. That's the end of that story, but I got a few more I gotta weave into this tapestry. And remember what I said at the beginning. The theme of this video is foreshadowing. Foreshadowing! I've still got an essay to write, so I go off and do some research, and as I'm reading this article, I come across this paragraph. Perhaps the most famous case in recent history concerns Yukio Mishima, a renowned novelist and Nobel Prize nominee who committed ritual seppuku in 1970 after leading a failed coup against the Japanese government. So first off, excuse me? That's fucking crazy. And second off, Japanese novelist, seppuku. Surely it's not the same author. No, it's the same author. If you guys haven't looked up Yukio Mishima before, I would strongly recommend. He led a crazy life. He was very well known in the 1960s for his very strong and controversial nationalistic beliefs. Wow, that is... Guys, should I be a university professor? What the hell? I'm trying to resurrect Bushido in post-World War II Japan, who is known for its pacifism. Like, I don't think we've ever seen a case of foreshadowing this extreme in real life, ever. Yukio Mishima really believes in what he believes in, like all caps believes in what he believes in. So much so that he started his own militia. He attempted a coup during which he gave a proclamation where he states that the Japanese lost their Japanese spirit when they rejected the divinity of the emperor at the end of World War II. And then upon his failure, commits seppuku and even has his second in command behead him after he commits it. Well, attempt to behead him. After 3 tries, another person had to give it a go because the second couldn't cut it. So going back and reflecting on patriotism, holy shit, I was right. Oh my god, I was right. Holy! Patriotism isn't just a historical short story. It is Mishima's ideal couple. It's a fantasy. Listen to Mishima himself. All of his writings are supposed to foster this sense of admiration for Bushido and for seppuku and this lost sense of honor.
自分のためだけに生きて自分のためだけに死ぬっていうほど人間は強くないんです。すると死ぬのも何かのためということが必ず出てくる。それが昔言われた大義というものです。そして大義のために死ぬっていうことが人間の最も華々しいあるいは英雄的なあるいは立派な死に方だというふうに考えられている。しかし今は大義がない。それでも心の中に自分を超える価値が認められなければ生きていることすら無意味になるというような心理状態がないわけではない。それは私は病気になれば死を恐れます。それだけになんか、もっと名誉のあるもっと何かのためになる死に方をしたいと思いながらも結局葉隠れの著者のように生まれてきた時代が悪くて、一生そういうことを思い暮らしながら畳の上で死ぬことになるだろうと思います。
The Harikiri is a very positive, very proud way of death. I think it is very different from the Western concept of suicide. Western concept of suicide is already defeat itself, but Harikiri sometimes makes you win. I wanted to revive some samurai spirits through it, because I don't want to revive Harikiri itself, but through the vision of such a very strong vision of Harikiri, I wanted to inspire and stimulate younger people. Through such a stimulation, I wanted to revive some old traditional sense of honor, or sense of very strong responsibility, and such a sense of death in honor. That's my purpose.
Well, anyways, I don't think I have a huge desire to go more in depth on this. I just thought it was so incredibly interesting and ironic, I guess, maybe is the word. Foreshadowing.